The night had started like any other. I was on my way to pick up dinner, planning to be in and out of the grocery store in 20 minutes. Just enough time to grab something quick, maybe a few snacks, and head home to Emily. I pictured her waiting. For me, maybe already setting the table or telling me about her day. But the universe had other plans. As I drove down the familiar street, my mind wandering through menus and recipes, I didn't notice the car speeding towards me until it was. Too late. The headlights hit my windshield like a flash of lightning, blinding me. The screech of tires was deafening, cutting through the night. The next moments were a blur, a violent impact, the crunch of metal against metal, glass exploding like tiny shards of ice. I felt the force slam into my side, then the world flipped, upside down. I remember the smell of burnt rubber, the taste of blood in my mouth, and the sharp, unrelenting pain spreading through my body, then darkness. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself staring up at a blindingly white ceiling. The harsh hospital lights buzzed overhead, casting cold shadows on the walls. It wasn't home. I wasn't Emily. My body screamed in pain, each breath a dagger stabbing through my ribs and chest. I tried to move, but my arms and legs were heavy and numb. Tubes and wires were attached to me, pulling at my skin and tethering me to machines that beeped steadily, machines that kept me alive. I wanted to speak, but my throat was dry and sore. A dry, cracked whisper escaped my lips. Emily. Silence. No voice. No footsteps. No comfort. I tried to scan the room. Nurses were busy moving about, checking machines, making notes, but none of them looked like her. None of them brought the warmth I craved. My chest tightened with fear and loneliness. Where was Emily? Why wasn't she here? I struggled to move my hand toward my phone, which lay cracked and blinking with a low battery warning on the bedside table. I barely had the strength to reach it. I saw it. Missed calls. Many of them. From Emily. Tears burned my eyes. I whispered again, Emily, please. The nurse noticed my desperation. She checked my phone and frowned. She hasn't answered, she said quietly. I begged, call her again, please. She nodded, tried again. No answer. Time lost all meaning. Minutes turned into hours. Pain wrapped around me like a heavy blanket, suffocating and cold. My lungs burned, my collarbone throbbed, stitches pulled tight on my side. Still, no Emily. Finally, the nurse looked up, her eyes heavy with exhaustion and something else I couldn't quite place. She sent a message, she said softly. My heart lurched. She said she can't come right now. Her sister is crying over paint colors. I couldn't believe it. Paint colors. I was bleeding, broken, fighting for my life, and she wasn't here because of paint colors. I coughed, blood rising in my throat, and bitter laughter escaped me. A laugh that carried all the pain, the disbelief, the heartbreak. That night, I stopped hoping. I told the nurse, call my lawyer, because something had shattered inside me, something that couldn't be fixed by medicine or time. Flashbacks came in waves. The crash, the twisted metal, the darkness, the pain. When I left the hospital days later, I expected to find her waiting to hold my hand, to tell me everything would be okay. But the house was empty, silent, cold. Calls went unanswered. Texts went ignored. The woman I loved was gone. I was left alone with questions. Why did she leave? Did she ever care? I started to see the cracks, the late nights, the perfume that wasn't mine, the phone always face down, the distance in her eyes. I knew I had to find out the truth, even if it broke me. The days after I left the hospital were the hardest I had ever faced. Physically, I was still healing. My body was weak and sore. Every step sent sharp pains through my ribs and side. But the hardest part was the emptiness Emily left behind. She didn't visit. She didn't call. She didn't even send a message beyond that one excuse about her sister and paint colors. I tried to understand. Maybe she was scared. Maybe she was overwhelmed. Maybe she didn't know what to say. But silence grew heavier with every passing hour. Began to look for answers in the only places left, our shared life, and the records I could get my hands on. Our phone records showed something I didn't want to see. Missed calls from me to her, one after another. 18 calls one day alone. None answered. I started to doubt myself. Had I imagined the distance between us? Was it all in my head? Then I looked at the bank statements, charges that didn't make sense, expensive dinners, hotel stays. All on nights she claimed to be at book club meetings or with family. I felt the cold creep back into my chest. I hired Mason, a private investigator, and an old friend. I showed him everything, the calls, the bills, the strange expenses. He started watching her, following her, collecting proof. Within days, he sent me pictures, photos of Emily with a man named Patrick Bennett, her boss, the same. Man who once sent me Christmas gifts and called me brother. Now he was the man she laughed with at restaurants I wasn't invited to. Mason's reports showed more and more. Videos of them holding hands late at night, receipts for hotel rooms under fake names. Each new piece of evidence was a stab to my heart. Yet I kept pretending, texting Emily as if nothing had changed, hoping she would come back, but she was someone else now, someone I didn't know. One night, I watched the security footage from our home. Emily stepped out of Patrick's car, laughing and holding him close, her eyes full of a freedom I never saw with me. That was the moment I stopped pretending. I was betrayed, not just by her actions, but by the woman I thought I loved. I waited, not because I hoped she would change, but because I needed her to feel safe. I wanted her to think she was untouchable, so I stayed silent. Her messages piled up on my phone, unanswered. "How are you feeling?" one read. "Need anything?" "I miss you." She even sent a selfie, wearing one of my old t-shirts. The same shirt I saw crumpled beside Patrick's shoes the night everything came crashing down. I didn't reply. I let her messages sit, unread. Behind closed doors, I met with my lawyer, David. I showed him the evidence, photos, receipts, messages. He smiled a cold, knowing smile. "You sure you want to serve her at dinner?" he asked. "Yes," I said, "before the desserts get cold." Thursday came fast. I arrived early, nerves hidden beneath calm. In my hand was a thick leather folder, divorce papers, proof of betrayal. Emily arrived 15 minutes late, as always. Wearing red, the color she knew would get under my skin. Hair curled perfectly, lips glossy, that same smug tilt to her head. "You look better," she said, swirling her wine. "Maybe all that time alone helped you see we both made mistakes." I nodded. "I did make a big mistake." She raised an eyebrow. I slid the folder across the table. Her smile faded as she read page after page of proof. Her face went pale. Lips tightened. She whispered, "You're divorcing me?" I looked her in the eyes. "You ignored 18 missed calls from the hospital. I could have died. And you told the nurse you couldn't come because your sister was crying over paint colors," she scoffed. "You're overreacting. You weren't in a coma." But I saw the truth. She chose him over me, over us. Silence settled between us. Then she stood, trembling. "You planned this," she hissed. "Yes," I said. "Just like your hotel getaways. Only I have the receipts." She looked for a fight, but found none. She left, storming out. I sat back down. "I'll still take the creme brulee," I told the waiter quietly. That night I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I was empty. After the confrontation, life didn't magically get better. I moved out of our house into a small rental by a quiet lake. No memories, no ghosts, just the gentle sound of water and the wind. The divorce process moved quickly. Emily tried to fight, saying she deserved her share. But when we showed her the proof, the infidelity clause, the hotel bills, she gave up. She signed the papers without a word. Patrick lost his job. Emily disappeared from social media. I thought I would feel victorious. But instead, I felt relief, like a heavy weight had been lifted from my chest. Weeks later, I received a package. No return address. Inside was an old photo of us, before the pain, before the lies. On the back, in her handwriting. I did love you. I just didn't know how to be who you deserved. No signature. No phone number. I burned the photo that night, not out of anger, but because I was done holding on to the past. I started to rebuild. Simple things became my new treasures. Morning coffee, long walks, quiet evenings. I met Claire in a bookstore. She was kind and patient. We didn't talk about Emily. She just met me where I was. I went to therapy. I learned to forgive myself. Not for loving Emily, but for staying too long. 1 year later, I stood at the intersection where the crash happened. No wreckage, no sirens, just me watching life move forward. I realized the worst day wasn't the crash. It was the moment I saw she didn't care. That truth broke me, but it also made me stronger. Now, I live on my own terms, sometimes alone, sometimes with someone new, sometimes just with the quiet. I keep a photo in my wallet. It's me standing on a cliff, wind in my hair, my eyes steady on the horizon. My brother gave it to me. On the back, he wrote, "You're back, and so am I. If you're stuck, hurting, or hoping for closure, listen. You don't owe her your silence. You don't owe her your strength. Take it back, heal, and when you do, don't look back. Because the person you were, he doesn't live here anymore.